All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. If we have a couple of people join us, that will be just fine. Those of you that hadn't fully met him back there, that's Mr. Gerald Burton. He's you're doing evenings this time?
Yes, sir.
Evening instructor. The lady that's walking around that was helping us a few moments ago making copies now, that's Maria Woodard. She's an admin for us there in Dublin. And my name is Lee Radney, and I'm dean of this mess. And the reason I say mess, it's how it is in my brain right now. I've learned more about truck driving in the past 6 months than I ever wanted to know as a result of being affiliated with this truck driving program. And so one of the things that I hear constantly from both students and instructors is we wish we had more time, and we do. We really do. We understand that this is a very intense program, and one of the reasons I wanted to start having these meetings and all is to, one, give you a head start. You're going to find out about some due dates here in a little bit that are due, and by getting you in here for this mandatory pre-orientation, it actually gets you a few days head start so you can be working on some of this stuff without having to wait till the actual start date. And we have to work that within our calendar. And this year, normally when we have a January 3rd holiday, they'll oftentimes back that up into the previous year and let us take some extra time off around Christmas. This year, for whatever reason, they decided to leave it in January, and so we don't even have a week before classes start. So we did the orientation in Dublin yesterday and did the one here today. And so you won't have quite the full extra week that we had hoped for, but we can only do what we can do within the boundaries of what we've got. What you got?
Yeah, I have the Mary one.
Okay.
I just need your driver's license.
They haven't sent me the hard copy yet, but I did first, I got the DLD the first time I came in.
How long has it been?
It's been a while, but I had to change the address and they wouldn't let me change it at the DLD, so I don't know if it got crossed up in the mail.
You need to go back to the DDS and actually ask them for, because they will hold it.
They'll hold it.
Yeah, and if you don't have your hard copy of your license back within 2 weeks after you go, you need to go back to the DDS and ask them where your license is.
Okay. All right.
Should we wait on that? Until
Yes,
you
ma'am.
guys.
Mary, also, when you get them all after you get the, you don't have to do it right away. This guy was here this morning. He can't get logged in the Blackboard. He's got all this information. We've got a password up there, so you can see that you get it. Because he's already heard me play it, so.
I just have,
She'll be milling around and probably working with a few of you. One of the things I found out about truck driving right away is there are oodles and oodles of rules and regulations, and we put that on you guys to learn. The time that you spend with Mr. Burton is primarily going to be out there on the range with the truck. That means we don't offer you the content. We put this in Blackboard, we put it out there, we give you videos, we give you the books, we test you on it. So we're giving you the material, but it's not going to be lectured to you. It's going to be in hybrid form. It's going to be inside of Blackboard. So everything you need to be successful is in Blackboard for you to get into and access. But when you start next Monday, you're going to find out that this used to happen on a Monday evening, and it pretty well take up a Monday and sometimes part of the next day. So by getting in here a day early, we can get all this out of the way, make sure you can get into Blackboard, get some of the I's dotted and T's crossed, and get you extra time not only to do the theory stuff in Blackboard, but particularly extra time with the equipment out there. So you probably heard a few of us talking as we're doing it. There's generally 8 students per 1 instructor, and that is probably the closest in one-to-one training we've got in any program in this college. But it's necessary because obviously when you're driving a truck, somebody's got to be behind the wheel, somebody's got to be in the seat, that instructor's got to be in that seat with you to verify that. So it is an 8-to-1 ratio, but again, it's not hard to do the math. If you do, looking at only 6 weeks and 4 days a week, that's 24 days. Obviously, you're not gonna be spending 8 hours behind the wheel 6 and 7 days a week. You're gonna be allotted as much as possible during that time with an instructor to work with that equipment to be successful. But that's gonna require a lot of commitment on your part to the outcome. And, you know, the reason I say all this is, you know, I think you get this potential picture, come on in, this potential picture of this leisurely paced class where I'm gonna have plenty of time to, you know, do whatever I need to do. And unfortunately, that is not the case. We have 6 weeks, and it is a very rigorous part. The online learning part is all up to you. What you do out there on the driving range and on the road is going to be a combination of what you pick up between your theory, what you learn from Mr. Burton, and what you put into practice while you're doing it. So you know, we wish we could get you in a truck with a licensed driver and let you work 40 hours a week and do an apprenticeship that way, which would be much easier. But the problem is companies can't do that because guess what? They put a person in there with a learner's permit, and the insurance company finds out about it, and they're gonna write them a new policy, and they ain't a lot of numbers that's on that new policy. So this is one of the better ways to get time behind the wheel of a truck, or one of the best ways. As I've told this, all these other groups before, be ready to commit the next 6 weeks hard and fast. We've got a lady instructor there that teaches with us in Dublin. When she took her CDL, she had to get off work, drive from Dublin to Sandersville, and it was a 10-week program back then, and then go out home and do all this work. She said it would be 1 or 2 o'clock at night before she'd go to bed. So it's gonna be a commitment. It's gonna be one of those things that's gonna take some time. And the closest thing I can describe it to you is it's a boot camp. You know, it's gonna be very hard, very rigorous, very arduous on you. And the main thing is listen to that gentleman, or if you're Mr. Pullins, listen to Mr. Pullen. When they're out there on that range, there's 2 or 3 trucks running, different students doing different things. There is no inside voice out on a range. When they talk, they're gonna have to yell to be able to talk to you. They're not trying to be mean, they're just trying to be heard, because it is loud out there. This program is unique. I'd say the only other thing close to it is nursing. I used to teach electrical, and a student can hurt themselves typically messing with electrical. But this is one of the few programs where a student, besides nursing, can hurt multiple people really quickly if something isn't done right. Because I don't know how many of y'all saw that poor little bitty blue car out there. I drive that little blue Honda Fit. That's my commuter car. I've got something a little bigger I drive when I'm going back and forth to work. But that thing ain't gonna stand a chance to get that. The wheel on the truck weighs more than that Honda does, probably. But things can happen real fast and real quick that can be real bad out there on the road. So listen to your instructor, pay attention, give them their undivided attention. One of the worst things that I know instructors tell me is, you know, they get frustrated when they're trying to communicate something to you out there on the range and you're doing this on that phone, looking, and you would get equally frustrated if you were asking them something and they were not paying attention to you and on their phone, you know. So that goes both ways. So be sure to devote that time, give them their undivided attention out there. Now your instructor will answer questions about your course and obviously all that. Hopefully most of you are fairly computer savvy, but if you just generally don't know how to operate a computer and get around in Blackboard, which is the system we use to deliver your content, we've got tutoring available in our library in Sandersville, so they can help you with that kind of stuff. Now, if it's questions about your course, questions about rules and regulations, questions about how a truck works, that kind of stuff, that's an instructor question. But if you need somebody to sit down with you and guide you through Blackboard and how to get around these systems, we still got people that can do that. We just need to devote Mr. Burton and Mr. Pullen to working with the trucks and get somebody else to do that part. So if you do need tutoring, we've got that in the library. Now, everybody that's in this room at some point will go to take a drug test. And that drug test is administered by somebody outside of the college. That we have to bid that out in certain programs. And anyway, you'll go to a drug testing site. They will get a sample from you. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to put that sample in 2 different bottles. And they're going to send it off for testing. And 1 or 2 things are going to happen. 90% of the time, 199% of the time, everybody's going to pass and all is well. But occasionally, somebody fails. And when somebody fails, they're going to contact that person and let them know they failed. And they're going to contact us. Now, we don't have anything to do with administering the test. The only thing we do is look at the results. If you pass, you continue on in the program and all is well. If you fail, I ain't your judge and jury. I hate it for you. I'm sympathetic with you, but the one thing I can't do is let you progress in the program. That's just federal law. So I have to abide by that. So if you get a failure, that's it. And our policy says that you'll get an F in all 3 classes that you're in. And now when that MRO contacts you, and that's another point that I want to bring up, not every time that this MRO calls are they delivering bad news. Occasionally they'll get the sample and go, hey, this didn't come out good. We're going to need you to go down and do another sample. So answer that phone. I know, God, I hate to answer an unknown number because it's always those folks that want to talk to you about your car warranty every time. And found out Google has screening. That's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But after you go for that drug test, if you get an unknown number, you may want to check it. Hopefully it's just going to be something, where they might need another sample. But again, if you fail, I can't do anything about it. I can listen to you, but I can't do anything as far as just tell you you're out of the program and you can't get into a truck. The other thing they're going to tell you is, but hey, take heart. There might be a way out. They're going to say, we got a B bottle. You can do the B bottle. And this is one of those terms that I learned after I became a dean in the truck driving. And I didn't know what it was either, but when you get that first sample, they split it into 2 bottles. Both go to this site for testing. They only open one at that site and they test it. And they call you and they give you the results if you fail. And they're going to say, but you have the option of doing a B bottle. That B bottle doesn't mean you get to go give another sample 2 or 3 weeks later. That means they get to ship that original sample that was split in 2 to another lab that's going to also fail you. So if the first sample failed at lab A, they're going to take that second sample, send it to lab B. It's going to fail you too. The only difference is it's going to cost you $600 ultimately. And we're going to reassess that in your fees, which means if you ever do want to come back for any reason, now you got a $600 charge on your bill. I say that only because we've had a few people that have tried to come back and, of course they're ticked off. They tried to do the B bottle failed. They're ticked off at the time. They don't seem that worried about it. They're just mad. I understand you spent time, effort, and you failed a drug test. Now you can't do anything more. Then when they try to come back and take diesel or take whatever, they go, what's the $600 fee? Well, that's where you did B bottle. So I'm just letting you know that. And if you tell them you want to progress with that B bottle, they generally let us know, which is fine, because they're going to bill us first, and they're going to turn around and bill y'all. I try to always call everybody back and tell them, look, you can do this, but it's not a new sample, it's the same sample, it's just going to go to another lab, and you're going to fail that one, and here's what's going to happen if you ever do try to come back. So I'm trying to tell that up front, so I don't have to make those calls, but if you ever tell them to send it on, only you can stop it at that point. Once you say yes, once you commit, we can't stop it. So we just try to make that known to everybody, because I want to know. Because, people change. I'm back in college right now, and I'm 58 years old. I'm in my 3rd reinvention of myself, as things would say. So you never know what tomorrow will bring. And And so I see some faces in here that ain't near my age, but ain't 20 either, so I know some of you are doing that even now. So I just wanted to warn that to everyone, in case that happens with that drug test. I hope it doesn't. That's generally the only time I have to interact with truck driving students is when there is a failure. And generally they want to call me and plead the case, and I understand, but I can't do anything because it's been examined by a third party outside source. I just have to react to it. I can't make it better, but I can hear you talk if you want to talk. And I've had a few that let me know my mother wasn't married when I was born. So, but that's okay. That's part of why I get paid what I get paid. But anyway, this program is very fast-paced, and when we get in and look at some of this material that you got to cover, you're going to find that out. So we're just trying to let you know. And again, I'm not trying to scare you into quitting. I'm trying to scare you into committing to this, because that's what you're going to have to do to be successful. And even commitment isn't a guarantee of success. There's been a lot of people that have committed to something and didn't become successful. I could commit to Dancing with the Stars and probably work 8 or 10 hours a day, but I wouldn't ever win.
Do you know what your success rate is or what your failure rate is?
We have a pretty good success rate. I don't know particularly about truck driving. I would say somewhere in the high 80s to low 90s.
That's not bad.
And that's counting in even the ones that fall out due to drug testing. Typically, if you get tested, you're going to pass. If you make it as far as getting tested, typically you're going to pass. That doesn't mean everybody does, but typically if you make it that far, because you get 3 chances once you get tested.
And I know you said there's what, like 2 different testing sites?
Yeah, Dublin and Sandersville. Right now, Dublin's the only one available to us. What happened was we had the movie industry rented out our Sandersville campus and made filming out there, and they painted over some of the lines. So we got to get it repainted, then re-blessed by the DDS before we can test on it. So,
So is that typically done as soon as the course is over, or how does that work?
it kind of varies. We have some folks that come in, honestly, 3 or 4 weeks in, they've already been driving through some means, you know, maybe they're working on a farm and drive regular or whatever. Instructors kind of look at that and they say, all right, what you have is you have 3 opportunities to test. Now, an instructor comes to you and says, you know, I think you're ready. If you want to go ahead and test, we'll test you, and that way you don't have to keep coming. If they elect to test you, they don't count that as one of the 3. But if you say, I'm ready, I want to test, that counts.
Oh, so you only get 3 tries
You
to
get 3
test.
attempts,
Oh,
correct, yeah.
I don't know how any of that works.
So, and we'll talk about that a little more, but the main thing I'm wanting to get into straight away is the pace, and I think I've beat that horse pretty dead, and you'll see that a little more as we go. Y'all are on the cusp of an industry that's being changed by this entry-level driver training rule that comes into effect February 2nd. So what that means basically is, because your permits are dated prior to February 2nd, 2022, you don't fall under the ELDT guidelines, which is good. However, stuff happens. And let me talk about some things that could happen with you. So all your permits, obviously, because you had to bring us one, are currently dated prior to February 2nd. That's great. But we're also in the middle of a global pandemic. I remember I was taking a college class back when COVID first hit, and we were doing a project management class, and they said, account for anything that could happen in your project. And we kind of all jokingly said, there could be a shutdown with this COVID stuff. It's been mentioned a time or two. It was early on. And we all kind of laughed and thought, what are the odds of America shutting down for any period of time because of this? Well, we all know the answer to that now. So that delayed even our class. We ended up having an extra couple of weeks for our class because of that pandemic happening. So let's just say, here I am. I got vaccinated. I'm not asking you to disclose your status. I got the vaccine back in March. Got COVID in August. I was a breakthrough case. Had both shots. Had the first and the second. Had it several months. All of a sudden, felt a little strange. They'd always told us, don't feel good, don't come to work. I called my boss, said, not feeling too good, I'm gonna write it out. My wife had some of these home COVID tests. Here, try this. Within 3 seconds, that band started coming up on there. So I had to go get retested because I didn't trust that $10 Walmart test, and they said, yeah, you got COVID. I've had colds worse for me than COVID. So here's this guy in his late 50s, out of shape, gets COVID, no big deal. I worked telework the entire time, went out and cut my grass after I got off work every day, or I didn't do it every day, but on the days I did do it, changed the oil in a couple of cars, felt fine. Known people half my age that were in great shape, worked out, landed in the hospital. So we just don't know. So what does that got to do with this ELDT? Let's just say something happens to you and you got this permit dated prior to February and you're not able to complete the course because, God forbid, you get COVID. We're going to hold you at spot, we're going to let you come back, but probably sometime during that time, you're going to need a new permit. That one's going to expire. Guess what? It's going to be dated past February 2nd. Now you're going to fall under ELDT. The only major difference between what y'all are doing now and what the ELDT is going to call for is, as far as we're concerned, the ELDT says you have to take a program. Well, obviously you're in a program. The ELDT also says you have to make 80% or greater on all your theory stuff. So let's say this did happen to you. You're making 70s and 80s in your theory stuff now. You think, I don't care, I got my permit before February 2nd, but then something like that happens to you. Your permit is now dated afterward. We go back and look at your grades because now you do fall under ELDT and you're not above the 80% on all the theory. We can't test you. So it could still apply to you. I hope it doesn't. I hope nothing like that happens. The other thing that happened was we had a gentleman that went to renew his motorcycle license. They renewed all his license, including his permit, reset the date on his permit, and even though his permit didn't lapse, they wouldn't let us test him because it has to be 14 days after that permit is issued. So that could also make you fall under the ELDT if that permit date changes. So I say all this to say, while you're doing this testing, which by the way is all open book, every test you've got is read the question, find the answer in the book and answer it. So make sure you're getting 80s or above because you just don't know. I can't guarantee you what, and we could have something happen and shut the school down, you know. We could have our own outbreak.
I had asked Brandy, but isn't there like a certain number of days that you're allowed to miss?
Yeah, we do have an attendance policy, and then we'll usually work that out if, you know, if you're progressing. It's more about progression, but yeah, there could be some attendance issues.
I got a stupid jury summons.
Oh,
Like,
mercy.
gotta
Well,
get
we'll
me.
work with that. But just bear in mind, you know, even though you're prior to the February 2nd, we just want to make sure there are ways that can throw you under this new ELDT. And subsequently, after this, it's all going to be under the ELDT. So we can't change that at all. So make sure while you're doing these tests, you try to strive for 80 or above. That way, if something weird happens, you're ready. I forgot to mention this, or if I did, I've forgotten, I remembered this, but if you do fail a drug test, we give you an F in all 3 courses. And that's just in our procedure, and that's what we do. Hope will pay for truck driving one time, but if you don't make it through this time, generally it's an out-of-pocket expense. And not everybody qualifies for Hope, so some of you that might already be paying out of pocket may be going, what's this Hope thing? Well, if financial aid didn't award you Hope, it's probably because you already used it somewhere else. But just wanted to let you know, whereas in most other programs, if you fail a class or 2, there's some redemption in retaking that class. Here, it's one and done. When you come to campus and you're starting Monday, there are 4 things that you need with you every time you come here. You're going to need your regular driver's license, you're going to need your permit, you're going to need your DOT physical card, and you're going to need your log sheets. That's the second reason I hear from students. The first reason is this pace, well, first reason is road test failures. The second reason is the pace of this program is really intense. I'm trying to communicate now, so everybody can hear it. And well, if you come to me after and go, wow, that program was really intense, I'm gonna go, were you at orientation? So hopefully you're hearing that. I don't think I can beat that horse any more dead. The third thing I have is, Mr. Radney, this mean instructor won't let me in a truck because I ain't got my learner's permit. I'm not going to tell you this, but I'm going to think in my mind, good, he doesn't need to. Because that is a problem waiting to happen. If there's an accident on the road, that's going to come back to us. This mean instructor won't let me in because I thought all I needed was my permit. I didn't know I had to have my license too. Yes, you have to have your license too. And they will leave you on the side of the road. Or not side of the road, but out here if you don't have that. And that's what they should do. And I'm sorry for you, but make sure you have that with you when you come. So, before I get into the blackboard side of things, is there any questions at this point whatsoever? All right, before I start navigating through Blackboard, you'll want to write down at least those first 2 dates that's on the board up there, if you will. These are due dates for your courses. And this is why we have you in here early, because that first due date is next Friday. So in CTDL 1010, everything, and it's all theory, everything in that course is due on January 14th, just 1 minute before midnight. The second one is CTDL 1021. It's due the week later at 11:59 p.m. And CTDL 1021 is a combination of theory and hands-on, as is CTDL 1031, a combination. So your first course is completely online. Your second course, you got to have all the online part done by January 21st. And your third course is a combination of online and also go ahead and write down that TEMP $22T. You don't need it right this second, that way I can switch screens. That is, each of those T's are capital, everything else that's alphabet is lower, and then the $22 is special characters. So you'll need that in a few moments. So we're gonna get you in to your courses and make sure you can log into Blackboard. Yes, sir.
I didn't get the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back.
What it is, Tim?
There we go. My bad. All right. So I'm gonna let you have a quick look at this course, and we're gonna talk about some of the things that are in it. I'm going to go into a student preview so it looks kind of like what you would expect to see. Alright, so here is the landing page of your course. Now one of the things we try to tell our students is check your email and your course announcements every day. Even if you don't work in your course every day, check your email, check your course announcements. We're going to show you how to get both in the Blackboard, and that'll show you where to go for your email. Your course announcements will show up here. We have had to close the college for some weird things. In Dublin, the city was doing some work one day and dug up the water lines. And you think, what's that got to do with truck driving? Well, we can't flush commodes and we don't have fire suppression systems. And so we had to shut the college down because we didn't have water. And nobody wants to be in a big building full of toilets that can't be flushed. There's an image that you can think about all day, the rest of the day. So the majority of what you're going to be doing, if you can see my mouse here, is under lessons. So when I go to lessons, this is just a way of presenting you all of your online material that you've got to get done. And you'll notice these icons vary a little bit. This one looks like a folder. This one looks like a sheet of paper. This one looks like a sheet of paper. This is a link, another sheet of paper, and another folder. In every course you take, 1010, 1021, 1031, there is a attendance verification activity, which is a quiz about your syllabus. Your syllabus can be found right here. Again, open book, you can click on that syllabus, have it open on your computer, look at the question, go read your syllabus, find the answer. Go to the next question, go read your syllabus, find the answer, lather, rinse, repeat. So again, no excuse for not doing well on that. But you'll need to do that attendance verification activity by the 3rd day of classes starting next week. So by Wednesday of next week, any class you haven't done an attendance verification in, we're going to drop you from. That doesn't mean you can't get added back. You'll have to call Mr. Pullen, call Mr. Burton, and they can get you added back. But all that is a way of knowing you've been in your course and you've done something in it. And if you hadn't done that attendance verification activity by the 3rd day of next week in all 3 courses, we're going to drop you in any you hadn't done it in. You can be added back, but why go to the trouble? Just go ahead and do it, get it done. You'll be able to do 2 of them today. The 3rd one will show up next week, show up Monday, 10/31. So that's a good way to remember when all of a sudden you log in and you say, hey, I see 3 courses now. You can say that big guy that said he can't dance told me I need to go do that attendance verification in that 3rd course, and that's your syllabus quiz. So go ahead and knock it out. So
the first 2 will be open to
the
us.
first 2 will be open today. And then come Monday, you'll see the 3rd. So you'll see the 3rd course. Right now, you'll only see the first 2, and you'll see that in a few minutes. I'm just going to go top to bottom down here. You see it starts with attendance verification, and we go down, and it comes to a final exam. And then down here is prepare for CTDL 1020. This has got a lot of videos. It's getting you ready for your next course. But I want to show you, I keep harping, there's a lot to do, right? Everything in this course is due by Friday week. Let me go into this first folder right here. There are 16 chapters and 16 tests in this first folder. I'm sorry?
Each one of those has probably 10 questions on each
Right.
exercise. Some of them have 8, but the majority of them have 10 questions on each exercise.
So it's not overwhelming, but it's still got to be done. This one only has 2 or 3 items in it. Hours of service has a fair amount of stuff in it. So again, everything in here has got to be done by next Friday, including this final exam right here. We'll look at this last folder here. It's only got a couple items. So not every folder is created equally, which thankfully, because one of the very first one we clicked on had 16 things, and all of them don't have 16. So thank you, lucky stars there. And you can see this final exam, everybody always wants to know 50 questions. So 2 points each. So all of this stuff is what you're going to be striving to make an 80 or above on. Everything in 1021 that's written, you're going to be striving to make that 80 above. You still got to make a 70 or above to pass, but you, in case you fall under this new guideline, you're striving to make that 80. This is the favorite part of every course for everybody that come in. Only CTDL 1010 has work ethics in it. Work ethics, what happened is, this has probably been 20 years ago, industry reached out to us and said, we need people that's skilled, but we also need people to understand how to work with people. And all you gotta do is look at the internet and you'll see that there are people that can't get along all around us. And I'm on Facebook, I know. I'm on TikTok too, if you can believe that. Not dancing. There are 10, sorry it's late in the day, I'm just trying to stay awake. There are 10 case studies and 10 activities that you have to do in here. I'm going to click on it. You have to do a case study about appearance, about attendance, about attitude, about character, about communication. Now what this is going to do is it's going to have you read something that happened, and it's going to ask you some questions. we're not looking for a research paper on this. Don't overthink this, don't overdo it, don't underdo it, but I'm gonna open one up. I'm gonna open up, I think it's appearance that I like to use. And I'm gonna open up this appearance activity. And it's gonna open a Word document down here. And it's gonna tell you why appearance is important. You need to read this. Why appearance is important. What do you think applies to your program, different things. And at least at some point, it's gonna present you with at least one case study. This one has more than one. We only need you to pick one of these case studies to respond to. So don't answer every case study. All we need is an answer to a case study for each of those characteristics. So I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but we can get to the meat of it right here. Paula went over and slapped one of the women. Paula was fired. Why was she fired? I don't need a 10-page dissertation. She slapped somebody. That's why she was fired. Should she have been fired? Yes, because she was violent in the workplace. You know, again, don't. And Mr. Burton, if you got a different take on this, feel free. We don't need a 20-year history on how violence is. Yeah, well, and I had a student write me and say I would have slapped her back, and I said, well, that's exactly the answer I had. Now it wouldn't have been just Paula; it would have been Paula and your name. Insert your name here. So don't overthink these things, but do it. This is part of your grade, and this is thanks to the fact that we do have employers that have constantly talked about work ethic. But it's only in CTDL 1010. It's not in your other two, so once you get out of here, it's done. So you can see that's a fair amount of work, and it's not going to be done in 15 minutes. You know, it's going to take you some time. You're going to have to spend the next several days probably going through this and pouring through this and getting it ready. That's why we're thankful we can get you a little bit of a head start. You're not hearing this on the Monday before it's due that Friday. You're hearing it on the Wednesday afternoon before it's due the following Friday, which is still better than the other way.
Coach, once you answer on how you submit it.
Oh yeah, good question. So I'll go back to that one. There's a couple ways you can work in the Word document. So let's go back to this appearance one. And it opens that Word document for me. And everybody's got a different way of doing things. This is Lee's. I'll show you the way a lot of people do it. A lot of people would come down here and start typing here. She slapped. Okay, I'm not going to try to really spell. But I'm going to pretend I filled this whole thing out. I can come up here and I can do a file, save as, and I can browse and I'll make sure I know where I put it in my documents, and I'm going to put appearance activity and I name it submit. That way I know I'm submitting the one that I want to submit. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to my appearance Dropbox and I'm going to go to browse local files and I'm going to find the one that I named submit because that's the one I edited. Now here's my way, and you do it either way. I like doing this. I like going to this Word document, copying just the part that I'm replying to, and it saves me time. I like to copy that, and I like to come to the appearance Dropbox, and right here where it says write submission, I click on that. I make it, there's a way to make this full screen, I thought, but maybe there isn't. But anyway, I paste it in here, and I can just reply to it right here, and I can just hit submit right there. So you can either resubmit the Word document, or you can copy it out and put it right here in this write submission. It's all up to you. I like this better because I don't have to go through pages to find it, but again, up to you. So, good question. All right. This course is only going to be open to you starting now and ending Friday of next week, okay? At least, you might still be able to see it, but you're not going to be able to do anything in it beyond what you are now. Now, because this is an online course, we do attendance in online courses on Monday and Thursday. And at some point, there should be an attendance button. Is that how you do it here, Gerald? Is that the attendance button?
I actually just do mine live.
Okay. Well, Mr. Burton will take care of that, so I won't go over that part of it then. So, let's see what else we need to talk about. We talked about, this one's got to be done by the end of the first Friday, the other one's got to be done by the end of the second Friday. We talked about the work ethic, so yeah, I think we've covered everything. So any questions before we try to start working with you to get you in Blackboard? All right, so let me bring this screen up here. I've got, if you don't have your username to log into the PC, I have it.